What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to do Local Man number 2 from Image Comics. Right? Finally, I get a couple of Local Man comics. It took a while, but finally it's here. I really enjoyed the first one. It was really a surprise to me, by the way. And basically, this is also a double feature. I believe that's how you say it, right? So we're going to take a look at the double feature in this episode story, that's the word. And then we go to the main story because this is more like a flashback, right? So before we get into a small recap from what I still know, well, the basic gist is that this is our main hero, Crossjack. He entered a group called Third Gen. It's more like this is more like a homage from, the 90s comics. And this is the leader guy. I'm not sure how probably his name is somewhere in here. But, Crossjack had some fling with his wife, which is this woman. Therefore, there's some story there that is not very clear. But he's getting booted from Local Man. But since, Third Gem is a superhero under, I don't know, they have some... basically, he's now forbidden to use his powers and costume and all that stuff, legal-wise. And so he goes back to his hometown, but the people don't like him there. He's pretty unpopular, right? And then he's getting attacked by one of his arch villains called Hodag, not Hodag, that's another one, Hodag. And something happened. I'm going to explain later. So first of all, we're going here. So when he still is, part of the Third Gem, I believe, and they have some town meeting here and welcome him to the fold or whatever, and then he's getting attacked by his old nemesis, Hodag, and he says, hey, we're going to take him now. No, says Crossjack, I got it. And then he said they attack each other, and he says, hey, good, it's you I wanted, Jack. And so they're having a fight, but, Crossjack, pretty good with what he's doing, and he is, incapacitating the enemy. And now he's the hero, and everybody saw it, and everybody's clapping, yay. Yo, Crossjack, right? And and then now he's being, taken away and then going away because now everybody loves him and he's basically basking the glory of everyone else. And Hodag comes up and he says, hey, Jack, what about us? And then we see this cool pin of this Punisher religious guy. And now we're going to the main book, and then we're going to explain a little bit more what's going on. So Jack is sleeping here, right? And he's been waking up. So can you get up? Says some voice. And then there's the police in front of the door, and he says, they know his identity, by the way. Hey, so the police says, hey, you need to come with us, and I believe this is his mother. And so she says, you cannot go to the station like this. Here's a jacket, right? So, but Jack says, hey, talk about Hodag because he doesn't know what's going on. He says, yeah, we know each other, but he started it, right? Because in the previous issue, Hodag and he had a fight in a local bar. Like I said, Jack is not popular. And so the cop says, you need to wear cuffs now. He said, why? Because you turn invisible, yeah? He says, no. Super strength then. He says, what are you calling super? I mean, above average. Wait, put this on. So he takes on the jacket and then he goes to the police precinct. And it seems that Hodag is dead. He's been killed in prison. And they basically suspect, Crossjack, because, well, they are arch enemies, if you can say it. He's being suspected from killing him, but he says, "Hey, dude, I'm a superhero. What are you talking about, right? I'm not going to do that." Anyway, so Jack says, hey, Brian, well, will you look at me? The famous guy knows who I am. That makes me famous too. And it's Chief Buchholz. Okay, Chief, your wife and I, I grew up here, so we're friends on Facebook. So he explains that, when he left the bar, Hodag was totally fine. And then, like I explained, they suspected him. And he says, Chief, Brian, Hodag and I fought a lot, but what do you all think of me now? I'm a good guy. I fought for the country for truth and justice. Truth and justice, huh? You think that's what Camo Crusader would have called it. So, Camo Crusader, that's this one. Camo Crusader, Crusader of Justice, God, I don't know. Right? And he screwed his girlfriend of wife. Everybody in town knows why he kicked your ass to the curb after 20 some years. Yeah, he found out. Inga, your wife, call her. She's my alibi. All right. So he says, hey, that's it. Yeah, Inga says she was with you. That's good enough for me. Even if she wasn't my wife, she's still royalty in town. Go put on some pants. So, and then Jack says, hey, do you have any other lead suspects? The one that killed Hodag? And he says, yeah, I'm sure he did have some enemies. The only thing he said before the camera in the cell went to shit, he says, are you an angel? Do you know any angels? Look, I got a dog mauling and a disturbance at the quarry to deal with first. Real people problems. Which reminds me, my lovely wife mentioned you got some visitors last night. She said, Jen told you aren't allowed by copyright law of all things to suit up and do any kind of superhero shit. I guess that means I don't have to worry about you getting in my way, cross-jack. So he says, yeah, I keep to my own business. And then the cop says, hey, you know what's funnier? That my wife, Inga, she never mentioned knowing you before at all. So yeah, even his childhood friend doesn't want to do anything with him. Poor guy. So yeah, Jack goes home and also says, hey, don't worry about me getting home. I got an Uber, or a driver as he called it. There's a joke in the first book that made me laugh. Anyway, so he gets these visions about about Hodag, and he's puking. And then, yeah. Welcome to Farmington, hometown of the world famous hero Crossjack. Yeah, not so much anymore. So he's been getting driven home by this driver. Fuck Crossjack. Like I said, this is the joke. I'll leave a link in the description from the first book. You can check it out. It's pretty hilarious. Subscribe to my channel, all that jazz. Anyway, so his mom says, hey, Jack. And he says, hey, I'm sorry. I left a jacket at the station. So, hey, please come back to the backyard. So his dad is also not very pleased with him. She said, hey, I want to try to get some work done, but there's a very annoying robot and he doesn't let me pass, right? So this robot says, hey, you are in violation of code something. You are prohibited from any sort of crime fighting, right? And he says, including but not limited to abiding law enforcement in an investigation, says the robot. He says, hey, I wasn't aiding him. I was called to the police precinct because they suspected me of murder. And his dad says, murder? You've been home for 12 hours. And he says, Dad, I didn't do it. He says, it was a misunderstanding. Damn it. Robots, murders, and late dinners. Always a real pleasure to have you home, boy. A real damn pleasure. So he says to the robot, says, hey, I'm gonna take the dog for a walk. Are you gonna follow me? He says, the robot says yes. Anyway, so basically this is not, this particular issue is not really a superhero issue. I believe this is more like a crime solving puzzle with superheroes mixed in, because there's somebody died, and he needs to figure out who done it, right? Some murder mystery, if you will, with superheroes, and so that's pretty fun. So, so the cop drives, and he goes to this. How do you call this? I know the word, but I forgot already. This place where people live in vans. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so he comes up with this woman, Mr. Olson, and he says, "I'm sorry about Hodag. I'm sorry about your son, Bernice." And he says, "Oh, little Jack Xavier, not so little more anymore, no son. Come in." And he says, "Well, I can because of the robot." But then she says some kind of a code, and this thing shuts down. He says, "Hey, what do you do?" Jeremy, that's Hodag, had one of these drones for 9 years, supposed to keep him from rampaging and digging. We learned how to live with it, and it was a lawsuit. Anyway, so he goes in, and they have a talk, right? And he says, "Hey, you want to have some root beer?" And also that, his son made this or something, and when it was made, and his son, called himself after this creature. And he says, "Mr. Olson, I've been away. I thought Jeremy had stopped the supervillain thing after got his brain punched in. Yeah, he did. Despite it all, despite the constant pain, the unemployment, despite that goddamn blue suit stuck to his skin, he did. And then he didn't." Yeah. And he wants to apologize and explain that he didn't do it, but then she says, "I know you didn't do it, Jack. You wouldn't hurt a fly. That's why he chose you as his arch enemy, He said you didn't take it all so seriously. Like you knew it was a show. Gods and monsters and whatnot. Mysticism, he calls it. Until he forgot what that word means." And then she says, "Hey, can I show you something?" And then she showed him some drawings that, he did because, I don't know, he was lonely or bored or whatever. And he says, after the attack, he had trouble speaking sometimes. Some days were worse than others. On them days, he'd just sit and draw while I worked. All kinds of stuff, He could copy most anything he saw. But mostly he liked to draw colorful characters. I never knew which was his imagination or was his real life. Anyway, he did these comics. I think you ought to have them. Childish, I know. Superhero stuff. He says, "Wow, thanks. One more thing, Jack. I don't know who killed my boy, but I do know whatever he was never the same after the Camille Crusader cracked his skull and made cerebrospinal fluid run out his nose just for fun." She has a chip on her shoulder. After they sent him home with one of those billion-dollar robots to make sure he didn't say or do nothing wrong, instead of spending that money to fix his implants or let him just live one day without agonizing pain in his head. Thank you, Crossjack, for fucking that fascist prick's wife hard and love for years until his gun-toting ass had to find out about it. He says, "Oh, no, that's not how it is." And she says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." That cracked me up. So, yeah, he comes home, and his dad says, "Hey, what do you got?" "Some drawings. Looks like it was done by a kid, basically." So his dad says, "Hey, is that what you wanted when you was little? Art teacher before, He says, "Before I became a superhero." He says, "I don't have any memories before that." So he says, "They asked me at the co-op, they asked me what you were planning on doing now that you are here." He says, "Well, tell them I don't know. I got to figure it out, right?" He says, "Hey, we saw the news about old Hodag. Well, thanks for getting that road out of the garden." So yeah, maybe he and his dad is going to reconcile, right? Maybe they are getting used that he is now home. I mean, they basically father and son, right? And, well, mother. And then we're doing this very old school throwback to the 90s when we see this panel with CNN of all. Goddamn. And when Top and Farlane, did this in the Spawn comics, with all these news reporters. So they speak about, Hodag being dead, and then all these people says, "Well, no, he deserved it, and he's a villain, he's a terrorist," right? And the whole spiel, right? And they talk about Hodag, that he was in some supervillain group, and now he's dead, and they want to find they're reporting the news about the whole incident, and so talking about Crossjack and all that stuff, right? And So Hodag looks at these drawings and he sees constructors of affect membet, affect. So, and then he has a flashback about an earlier adventure with Gen 13 about the affect engine. You know, there was in the first issue, if I remember correctly. So then he goes outside, crashes this robot that says, hey, you are in violation. And then he looks like a reject from The Walking Dead. And he says, hey, don't worry, robot. I keep on my own business. And then we're going to continue into the next book. And then we're going to find out what the hell is going on. And I'm very curious. I got now 4 or 5 issues now. And I pre-ordered the 6th and the 7th. I'm having fun with this. I love this murder mystery with superheroes things. The writing is, you know, spot on. Oh, by the way, it's been done by TONY FLEECS is the artist. Tim Seeley and TONY FLEECS has also written and created, and a whole lot of other stuff. So guys, let me know what you think about Local Man. More stuff is coming soon. See you next time. Bye-bye.